speak with you. How you doing?
Hello, Vince. Nice to talk to you. What's on your mind now? Let me hear.
So before we get to the Peters trade, I just want to tell you I go back to 1989 with you, being in New Jersey and being a Rams fan ever since the Flipper Anderson game when you were giving Mike a hard time playing the Flipper song.
I did play that. I did play Flipper. I did play that Flipper song when he scored the touchdown. That was in when was that? He scored that touchdown.
It was the 89 season. I think it was maybe the beginning of 90 in the playoffs.
So January 90, he did that. That was not January of 89. It was January of 90. I thought it may have been the 88. No, the 88 season and lost to the Jets. So it was the year after. Okay, good job.
That's right.
Yes.
Anyway, on the Peters trade, I kind of agree with you. And thinking about this from a Rams perspective, I know McVay. I'm a big fan of McVay, but he has really preached bringing in high-character guys, and that's what he did his first year. Now, I know they have a solid locker room. Obviously, he's the coach of the year. They have really good leaders in Gurley and Donald. So I think they have the locker room to handle it. And obviously, on the field, this is a no-brainer between the cost structure and the talent he brings.
Right.
But I am just concerned about bringing in that type of person into an already solid locker room.
That's a very fair point, Vince. Good call. 100% right. Marcus Peters is a jerk. Kansas City got rid of him. That tells you all you need to know. He's a young player. He's one of the better corners in the league. He makes plays. But if Kansas City doesn't want him, that tells you all you need to know. And if Clark Hunt, you can't play for him, you're in trouble. So that would concern me too. But a guy like that you can't get, normally if he's well behaved. So sometimes you got to take a chance on a bad guy. And hope he grows up a bit. We'll see how that works out there at the Rams. Here's Larry in Atlanta. He's with us here on Mad Dog Unleashed. Larry, welcome. How are you today?
Dog, good talking to you.
Hello, Larry.
Caller.
Good to have you aboard, pal.
Caller.
What's up?
First-time caller. Been listening to you since 2008. I'm a Carolina fan. I'm a devout Carolina fan. I want to agree and disagree with you. The coaches they all swim in the same cesspool. Carolina dumbing down Black History class and made up a Black History class, dumbing it down and ask questions like, well, is Booker T. Washington black or white?
Yeah.
And
yes.
If you answered it that he was black, then of course you got an A. If you fail a physics class or a science or required class and got a D, then it averages out. You eligible to play if your grade point average is fine.
Yes.
They all love Roy Williams and Dean Smith-Adele. What I wanted to challenge you on, Dog, was you said that, if I understood you correctly, that you have to find a connection between the agent and the coach.
I think or the school. I think you have to, if you're really going to make inroads with the school, you're going to have to prove to me that the basketball program knew exactly what was going on when they got these kids.
That's never going to happen, dog. That's never going to happen. That's not the two cases that, to me, that resonate so clearly is the one with Marcus Camby that another caller already mentioned, and the one with Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush did the same thing. He took money from an agent just getting started. The agent gave him all the money he could. Then when he won the Heisman Trophy, he signed with another agent and took 3 times as much money. The first agent ratted him out. The coach ran for the hills, and
Pete Carroll.
Rest is history.
Right.
Pete Carroll ran for the hills. The rest is history. So they've been fine. You can make a connection, Dog, but it's crazy how deep and how immoral these schools are with this money. It's absolute. And I'm a Carolina fan, Dog. Let me just say this: I would pull for Carolina if Putin was the assistant.
So Roy Williams, you could good call, excellent job. But get back to me again, superb. And Putin, of course, with Roy Williams, that grade thing was pretty bad. That was an excellent call by Larry in Atlanta. Kenny in Vegas, he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Kenny, good afternoon. How are you today?
Dog, I'm a big fan. I'm not a fanatic, but I'm a big fan. I used to live in New York. I was a New York City cop. I was a sergeant driving around in the patrol car listening to Mike and the Mad Dog.
Oh, were you really?
Hopefully
you caught the bad guys when you were listening there, Kenny boy.
I did. I wasn't a bad lieutenant. I was a good sergeant, I guess,
Good boy.
Listen, you know what I want to... I just want to know if guys feel the same way that I do. I'm not chauvinistic. I'm very open-minded to everything. You know what I mean? Politics, everything. But is it me or is ESPN unwatchable? Like, they have these shows that you just can't watch, and they'll stick a woman in between two guys, and 90% of the time the woman doesn't shut up. And I don't know if it's me, but if I see Rachel Nichols one more time, I'm just going to put my head in a vice.
Well, she's on that NBA show. Oh,
she is the worst.
What ESPN has done is they spend so much money on these two sports on a daily basis, the NFL and the NBA, that as a result of that, they feel they have to promote those two sports until you're sick and until you're blue in the face. So they do a lot of NBA programming. Rachel Nichols' show is a perfect example. And they do a lot of NFL programming. NFL, you can live with a little more than you can NBA. Even now, it's a little tricky every single day of it, but you can live with it. And I think it's just really a case, Larry, and good call. You're getting tired of it. I mean, I think that, the last thing you want to see on an everyday basis is NBA coverage. And they do an incredible Stephen A. Smith, who we all love, but he's an NBA guy, and a lot of it's all NBA. I mean, they try to do some other things, but Stephen A.'s strength is NBA basketball, and they do a lot on that with the NBA. So there's a lot of it's the debate shows, and a lot of it is using their sport. Of the sports that they paid a ton of money for to do their thing. If you notice, there's never any hockey on there, and there's never any baseball on there. They do very little baseball, and they do very little hockey. Why? Because they didn't pay the money for the rights fees. So they don't think it's worth their while. They do a little more baseball than normal, especially in the summertime. They do a little home run derby stuff, and they have a wild card playoff game, and they do a little baseball tonight. But for the most part, their bread and butter. Is really is college football, college basketball, the NFL, and the NBA. I mean, that is what they're going to school with, those sports. The hockey, the tennis. They do some tennis, don't get me wrong, and they do a little golf, don't get me wrong. But those are the big sports they're going to go to school with. Here's Chris in New Jersey. He's with us here on Mad Dog Unleashed. Christopher, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, Dog, how are you?
Fine, Chris. Nice to talk to you. What's up?
The other thing about ESPN, too, is that if I want any baseball coverage, I'm going to MLB Network. I'm not going to ESPN. Their baseball coverage is horrendous.
It's bad.
Okay.
They have good guys. It's not a question of the talent. It's how much they don't spend any time on it. That's a big problem.
Well, Sunday night baseball is horrendous too. Let's face it. Nobody wants to watch or listen to their coverage on Sunday Night Baseball. It's become a gimmick. But I called because I spoke to you yesterday to end the show about this Mark Cuban scenario that's going on in Dallas. And this is 3 days into this now, and there's not one comment from Adam Silver about anything. Nothing.
He probably doesn't have, Chris, good call. He probably doesn't have all the information at his fingertips yet. He's probably learning some of this just as you and I are. I think he wants to give Cuban the benefit of the doubt. What Chris wants is he wants a huge reprimand from Silva regarding the behavior of the Maverick organization. And since he's the owner of that organization, he wants some sort of punishment down on Cuban. I mean, that's, he couldn't wait to get Donald Sterling the hell out of there. And the NBA's got a lot to say about, bad, politically correctness. They got a lot to say on it. In this particular case, they've been very quiet with Cuban. And, the bottom line, the biggest issue, and I understand that. I mean, the NBA, you like to see the NBA, play it right down the middle when they have a situation for a guy who's, let's face it, Cuban's not voting for Trump. He's a Democrat. When they have him, you like to see him come down as hard on Trump as Cuban as they would on sort of on a Sterling, and they haven't done that yet. And again, the thing about Cuban is, and it's gone forever now, nobody in America, at least in this corner of our little world, this show, we don't want to hear Cuban anymore ever discuss politics. He's lost the ability to do that. He wants to go on Shark Tank and all that nonsense, talk about money and how to make it. Let him do it. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. He wants to go on all those CNBC shows. Let him do it. But if he ever talks about the Washington and the political scene ever again, it should go one ear and out the other. You can't knock anybody else when you can't get your own house in order. Case closed. Simple as that. That's the way I would look at Cuban. And I'm not down on Cuban. I have no pride. Cuban's a good owner. He's won a championship. I mean, he did make a terrible trade with Steve Kerr, but overall, letting him go. But he's, he keeps his coach. He doesn't fire people. I have no issues with his ownership, and I don't think he was that wrong. He shouldn't have said it because, it doesn't look. It's not the correct thing to do. But he got fined for it, so he paid his price. I didn't have a problem with the $600,000 deal too. He's right. The Mavericks are better tanking. So there's a lot about Cuban that I like, but in this case, I no longer want to hear a word now about Trump. That's it. Or anything else in Washington. I'm not interested. We got a sports bite. I believe it's Jacob Wilkins. He's still with us at half past there on Mad Dog.